Morning all and welcome back once again to I Like Watches. Today I am filming a Rolex GMT Master II San Martin Homage comparison video, and I woke up this morning and thought, you know what, I do need to film a dedicated lume comparison video because it's quite a complicated subject. It's going to take quite a bit of time to break down the lume on both of these watches, and well, Rolex uses a special blend of luminescent materials that they like to call Chromalight. San Martin just uses BGW9. Is there any difference? We're about to find out. Now, in an effort to be as thorough as possible, I have performed more than one test, so stick around to the end because the results are really quite interesting. The first test I did is just my normal test where I charge up the lume with my torch and then just let it degrade in my light box while I'm filming it. But instead of recording for 5 minutes, I've actually recorded for over an hour. And I have to say the lume on both of these watches is very, very good. It does look like it's degrading a lot and almost invisible at the end, but the lume is actually much brighter in person. So I am confident that the lume on these watches would last a number of hours, potentially even through the night. Now, in terms of the initial lume burst, I think it's pretty much the same, isn't it? Obviously the San Martin has a lumed bezel and the Rolex doesn't, so I'm going to be ignoring the lume on the bezel for this test or comparison. I'm only going to be focusing on the lume filled into the applied indexes and also the lume applied to the hands. And as the lume degrades, it does look like each watch has applied indices that are brighter than the other. Not all of the indexes on each watch are identical, are they? But I do think at the halfway stage, it does look a little bit like the San Martin. It's just edging it a little bit. Certainly those applied indexes, I think the hands are pretty much the same throughout this whole test, so it's a really tough one to call. I'm really going to call this one a draw, I think, which is a surprise to me. I really did think that the Rolex would have the superior lume, given, well, they're calling it Chromalight and it has a special blend of luminescent materials, and well, it's a Rolex retailing for over £9,000 and it's competing against a homage watch from China that costs 300 quid. So I think it's outrageous that the San Martin is even close, let alone matching it. Now, after I finished filming this test, I thought, well, I've used a torch to charge up the lume on these watches, and that's not really natural, is it? That is not what we do every night before we go to bed. We just put our watches on the side and hope that the watches have been charged naturally. So that was the next test I did. I took the watches outside for a few minutes, then brought them inside and let the lume degrade, and basically just did the same test for roughly 20 minutes or so. One thing I did notice though was the lume outside on the Rolex looks quite blue, and well, in the Rolex marketing material they brag about how white the lume is during the day and what a beautiful blue colour it is when the lights go out, which is true. It is a beautiful blue colour, but I wouldn't say that's white during the day, would you? But the San Martin, on the other hand, well, that does look very white. So for this test, San Martin takes it, doesn't it? Easily. It's not even close. Anyway, let's move on to the naturally charged lume degradation test, and I think again the results are very difficult to call. I was wondering if perhaps the Rolex would react better to being charged with natural sunlight, but it doesn't look to be the case, does it? They both look very comparable, and I had to stop this test when I did because my phone lost focus, and once it loses focus there's no getting it back until you turn the lights on, and so of course then that would just ruin the test. So it looks to me like Rolex Chromalight is just BGW9. It's good, don't get me wrong, it is really good. It's not the best I've ever seen. The best lume I have ever seen is on, I think it was a Seiko MM300, but also a Proxima Homage. C3. I do think C3 or green lume is just generally longer lasting than blue lume, but I think we all just prefer the colour of blue lume, don't we? Which is why most brands seem to use it these days. So in summary, I think, well, the lume on both of these watches is basically identical. Certainly when the lights are switched out during the day, I think the San Martin lume is quite a bit whiter, isn't it? Well, who'd have thunk, right guys? Yeah, as always, a massive thank you from me to you for tuning in. I do appreciate it. Make sure you come back for the full comparison. Subscribe, like, hit that bell notifications icon. Cheers, guys.